Remember when Jimmy Butler took a bunch of third-string players and beat the Minnesota Timberwolves starters in practice?
He like, I just beat them with the G Leaguers. This is your starters?
Then he went on national TV and told everyone.
He came and killed us.
And dipped on y'all.
And did an interview at home.
Targeting Coach Tom Thibodeau, teammates like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, that you told GM Scott Layton, quote, "You effing need me." How would you describe what happened today?
I was honest. Was I brutally honest? Yes. But I think that's the problem.
On one hand, it's a legendary story. On the other, it was a horrible look and exposed a fractured and struggling franchise.
Good defense.
Well, imagine something like that, but even worse than just one All-Star beating your starting five. On February 15th, the Milwaukee Bucks faced the Memphis Grizzlies, a team with an NBA MVP, a top 75 player of all time, and an All-Star, versus a group of G-Leaguers and 10-day contract players. The Bucks didn't just lose. They lost in the most embarrassing way possible. It was a competitive matchup that ended like this.
Not allow them an opportunity at a three. Here's Lillard. He gets caught up at midcourt. The ball was tipped. Out to Lopez. 2 seconds. One. Lillard at the horn. No good. Memphis holds.
How did a championship franchise fail like this? Who's to blame? And did the Bucks just doom themselves by hiring Doc Rivers? After winning a championship in 2021, the Bucks look like a dominant force that would run the Eastern Conference playoffs for years to come. Except they haven't. In 2022, they lost in the second round to the Boston Celtics. In 2023, they lost in the first round to the Miami Heat. And so far this year, the players look like they're losing it in the regular season. Just look at these plays. After a missed Giannis layup, Bam Adebayo grabs a rebound and starts the fast break. At first, the Bucks attempt to communicate their coverage, all pointing fingers. But no one really stops the ball, and Adebayo makes an easy chest pass like you would see in a cone drill in practice. And one on Brook Lopez.
And Brook coming over, foul on Jovic.
Here's another one from the beginning of February. Fourth quarter, the Mavs are down, so they double Lillard. Giannis gets the ball at the top of the arc and actually draws Maxi Kleber with a pump fake. Antetokounmpo has an easy swing pass to Malik Beasley, who's shooting 44% from three. Instead, he pulls up and bricks a 25-footer. Look at the disgust on Chris Middleton's face. And obviously, we can't forget this blunder right before All-Star break.
He gets caught up at midcourt. The ball was tipped.
In the postgame, the Grizzlies players are literally thanking the Bucks.
Great credit to Doc Rivers and the Milwaukee Bucks, have Giannis and Dame.
And celebrating with a Kamehameha finishing attack. There is clearly a lack of communication, trust, and chemistry between the Bucks players right now. And I know, lowlights like this happen all the time in the NBA. Teammates argue, bicker, and complain, and look discombobulated at times. But it shouldn't be common, especially for a team who's this talented, who everyone believed would be a heavy favorite to win the championship. Unless your franchise is totally messed up and nobody has instilled a winning team identity. Just watch them play. 1 minute, it's Giannis going for an ISO for pull-up jumpers.
A couple of nights ago in Denver.
For a guy who can absolutely fill it up.
Giannis with a tough turnaround.
The next, it's a Dame Lillard pick and roll.
Logo is his favorite Bucks logo. Fans are looking very sharp in this cap, and Lisa.
Lillard deep.
This works fine in the regular season because these guys are so elite and talented.
That matchup. Dame rises up and punches it.
Back off. Antetokounmpo.
Game to the semifinals Thursday. 3 Giannis.
To a young team that doesn't have many expectations.
But this doesn't build winning habits for the playoffs, and it shows. This regular season in the clutch, the Bucks have a 1.59 assist-to-turnover ratio, which puts them at 18th in the NBA, right behind the Charlotte Hornets. Contrast this with the 2021 Bucks. Everyone on that team knew their identity. Their game plan was to surround Giannis with shooters, trust Drew Holiday to make plays, and let Chris Middleton ISO in big moments.
Middleton with two. Middleton, you bet!
But this team does not, at least yet. All this boils down to a lack of leadership. You got Giannis starting the season saying it's Dame's team.
Basically, I might be here, but this is his team. It doesn't matter what people say. Giannis, this is his team. Like, he gotta lead us because at the end of the day, like, for him to feel successful, you gotta feel very comfortable.
But Lillard doesn't seem comfortable enough to take over. You got players like Bobby Portis calling out Coach Griffin in front of everyone, Brook Lopez routinely complaining on the court for committing fouls or not getting the ball, and Thanasis still has a roster spot.
As long as his brother is the man, he gonna have a job. I didn't say he was a bad player, but I'm saying they not
job security.
They got for job security. That boy gonna always have a job as long as his brother's the man.
None of this shit would fly with a strong vocal leader like Coach Pop or players like Michael Jordan, which is exactly why the team hired Doc Rivers in the first place, the guy infamously known as a quote-unquote player's coach. The Milwaukee Bucks really thought they made a surefire bet hiring this guy for 3 years for $40 million. The owner of the Bucks even called the Boston Celtics owner to get a clear and honest recommendation. But I think the team owners are still living in 2009 when Doc had just won a title, because there's an argument that this dude has completely failed upwards with some of the greatest talent to ever play. And almost like it was scripted, everything that could go wrong so far for the Bucks has gone wrong.
It's been difficult. It's been probably more difficult than I thought.
Doc Rivers took over a thriving Bucks team with the second best record in the East and has done nothing but ruin them. The Bucks have lost to the 15-win Portland Trailblazers, the 13-win Charlotte Hornets, and the 20-win Memphis Grizzlies, which, as you know, were missing all 5 of their starting players. And Giannis dropped 35 points.
Down the middle. Antetokounmpo!
Since Doc's hire, the Bucks are one of the worst teams in the league, with a 24th in offensive rating, 21st in defensive rating, and 23rd in net rating overall. So what's Doc's response to this poor play? Blame the players.
You know, we had some guys here, and we had some guys in Cabo.
I don't know if Doc got the memo that he's not on ESPN anymore. He is now the coach of these players. He's in charge of keeping morale high, making sure these players are focused going into the game. Yet, Doc has not once taken responsibility for this team underperforming.
You know, altitude, back-to-back. Whoever scheduled to Dallas, Utah, have never been on an airplane in their life, you know, or no time zones.
Seriously, Doc has blamed losing on players, altitude, schedule markers, time zones, injuries, basically anything he can do to not make himself look bad. Now, I don't believe it's all doom and gloom.
When you focus on the past, that's your ego. I kind of like try to focus in the, in the moment, in the present, and that's humility. That's being humble.
First, Doc Rivers needs to take accountability in everything he says and does. Yes, these are supposed to be professional athletes. But if 2 of your players are quote-unquote in Cabo, you need to speak with them first and get them to commit to the game. Coach Phil Jackson was somehow able to manage Dennis Rodman. I'm sure you can get Malik Beasley to listen. If you need guys to play better defense, you should be the first one in the gym. Bring a defensive specialist. Teach these guys something new and make sure everyone is connected. And if your team is blaming other players and complaining about not getting shots, you need to take the heat in the post-game interviews so that mid-game you don't have players crying about not being open and not getting back on D. This is a team game and it's on Doc to remind them or teach these players that. Good news is, if you're a Bucks fan, you have about 60 days until the playoffs start and things actually matter. But time is ticking and it seems like Shaq can sense the truth of the situation.
You and Giannis, you're being too nice.
Yep.
When it all said and done, it don't work out, 3 people gonna get blamed. Doc, you and Giannis. So you and Giannis got to make sure the troops get it done. There's no reason, but with Doc being there, y'all should be 3-7. That right there is unheard. So y'all, so when you get back, you're gonna have to grab some people by the necks and say, hey, this is what I need you to do. So
you're right.
That's my advice to you, young brother.
Got you.
Hopefully the Bucks can figure out and not waste possibly one of the greatest 1-2 punches we've seen in decades. But what do you think? Did the Bucks ruin their dynasty by hiring Doc Rivers or not? And where do you see the Bucks finishing this year in the playoffs? Let me know in the comments below.